Hey, Zach, I just want to say that that Trump is still winning because we're still talking about Trump even though we lost. You know what I mean? We're falling in a trap just talking about Mitt talking about Trump. I mean, the concrete impact is devastating on two dimensions. Number one, public trust erodes further. The media landscape splinters further to even less responsible actors. I mean, that's hard to believe. And then number two, you have a really, really problematic transition where you have this government in waiting that is unfunded. It can't talk to anyone who's in government. There's a pretty long stretch between beginning of November and late January. You know, that's like a solid 2.5 months. And it's damaging where you have like a real void or a vacuum or like a period when frankly no one's running the show, and we've kind of gotten accustomed to that as a country under the Trump administration, but like this is not the time for that with COVID spiking. So there's some very, very concrete negative effects of this dynamic for sure. I appreciate the folks that are trying to, that even see it. Like Mitt Romney's like, oh my gosh, like this is getting so bad, even I'm gonna have to step in and try and express fact or reason. Fact and reason are losing in the United States, and that's the thing that I think most people are still struggling with. Really, like there's like this fundamental notion that humans are reasonable, which I tend to believe we're reasonable a lot of the time. And media organizations fall into this trap in a very big way, where it's like, well, I'm going to now like present you with fact and reason. I'm very reasonable. I'm a journalist or whatever. And more people are just saying like, I don't care what you say. I don't care what your evidence is. I want to believe this. I will believe this. You're an asshole. And we need to reckon with that in a different way. It's like the language of fact and reason will not work on that. You know what I mean? It's clear that Trumpism has now transcended a particular unified set of facts. Now it's in the land of human nature, and the land of human nature operates on reason somewhat. But it also operates on feeling and emotion and tribalism and anger and hate and humanity, really. And this is one thing that does make me empathetic in a particular way, is that there is something very dehumanizing to a lot of our institutional life today. You know what I mean? Like you have these folks who are kind of transformed into instruments of a bureaucracy or instruments of a major media organization. And then their progenitors of this narrative of reason say, hey, be reasonable. And then if people are put in circumstances that are actually very, very unreasonable, like let's say their, town's only restaurant just closed because of COVID and like they're losing their job and like their family life's going to pieces. Then reason is not the right language, and Trump has managed to tap into another language that is working very well on tens of millions of Americans. And the folks who are using the language of reason just keep looking up saying like, why, like, what is going on? Like at some point, the reasonable thing to do is to try and peer into the realm of unreasonableness and say, okay, like what's going on here? That's certainly where I am.
Well, the other reasonable thing to do is to ignore it, or accept it as whatever. And what I was talking to my dad earlier is like, we had a whole conversation on politics, and he's like, "This is so frustrating. You want to watch football? You want to go play golf? Like literally, that's to distract yourself from
that would be a respite for us all, And that's another thing that I dislike about what's happening here is we've had a very, very divisive and tumultuous 4 years politically. And unfortunately, it looks like it's just going to continue because Trump's going to bring the spotlight with him. And one thing we're going to talk to Ariana about, in part, is what the media organizations' incentives are to cover or not cover Trump. So media organizations certainly built Trump up on the way up. And then when he's in the White House, in a way you can't fault them for just following him around all the time because he is the president. So the question is, what now? if the media networks follow Trump around post-presidency, then we're really going to have like a very legitimate beef with them, shall we say? Like like that would be the clearest sign of like, hey, at this point, we just follow the man around because he rates, and it does not matter if it's good or bad for the public. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad for the state of mind. But the tough truth is that Trump is just a much more interesting figure than most politicians. You know, I mean, he's just like more
by far.
Like he evokes like a more visceral reaction, either positively or negatively. And right now we have news media that thrives on trying to evoke that kind of reaction.
Yeah, the news stopped caring about the well-being of the country and the people a long time ago. But it's
I guess that's
You're
what
right,
we
that
talked
would
to
be the most
Ariana
obvious.
about. I mean, that's what this episode's about in many ways.